Holy shit. Right there, look. It's going up the hill.
A bison was about to kill me out on open ground, but then Bigfoot stepped in and did the unthinkable. I thought the Sasquatch had saved me, but what I witnessed next didn't make me feel safe at all. I was in huge danger, and the situation quickly turned into the worst nightmare of my life. My name's Dale Mercer. I'm a ranch hand out of eastern Wyoming, and I've been working open land pretty much my whole life. I'm the kind of guy who figures a bad day outside still beats a good day anywhere else. I was moving through a stretch of grassland I'd worked plenty of times before, and when I say wide open, I mean wide open. No brush, no cover, just rolling grass in every direction. There was a creek drawn off to my east with some beat-up cottonwoods along it and a thicker tree line maybe a quarter-mile north. That was it. Nothing else, and the nearest building was a long walk away. But that morning, something wasn't sitting right. I picked up a pair of mule deer out near the draw and had the glass up on them. Both of them were just standing there, heads up, ears forward, locked onto something I couldn't see. Deer don't do that for no reason, and they sure don't both fix on the same spot unless there's something there worth paying attention to. So I slowed down and did a long scan. Tree line, grass, the draw, the ridge behind me, and took my time with it. Nothing. I told myself it was probably a coyote slipping through the cottonwoods, which happens all the time, and that should have been enough to settle it. It wasn't. And then I caught something. It didn't register right away. Just a shape, darker than it should have been, sitting wrong against the grass. My eyes slid past it once, then something in my head said, "Hold up," and I brought it back. That's when it clicked. It's a bison, a big bull, maybe 200 yards out, maybe a little less. Hard to judge distance when your brain's still trying to make sense of what you're looking at. He had his head down, moving slowly like he was grazing, and on paper that should have been normal. I've been around bison enough to know the deal. You give them space, they ignore you, everybody goes about their day. Except this didn't feel simple. Something about him was off. He'd move, then stop. Not the way a grazer pauses, but more like he was thinking about the next move before he made it. Too deliberate, too controlled. I found myself stopping without meaning to, just standing there watching. And here's the thing I couldn't shake. Even with his head down, it felt like he knew I was there. Not in a dramatic way, not like he was about to charge, just aware, like I wasn't something he'd missed, like I'd already been accounted for. I shifted my path anyway, angling wider to give him space, because that's just a habit. You don't test animals that size, and you don't get stupid about it. But as I started moving again, something hit me that I didn't like one bit. I couldn't remember actually spotting him, not in the normal way. It felt more like he'd been there the whole time, and I'd only just been allowed to notice. I don't know why, but that sat wrong enough that I couldn't let it go. The problem with common sense is it only works when the situation is actually normal, and this wasn't. Nothing about it felt like something I could just shrug off and explain away. I can't tell you the exact moment he locked onto me, because I didn't see it happen. I felt it. There's this shift that happens when a big animal goes from not paying attention to you to focusing on you. It's quiet, almost invisible, but it's there. The air feels tighter, and the space doesn't feel neutral anymore. When I looked over, he was already in that state, completely still, head up, body squared, eyes locked on me from about 200 yards out. And the first thing that crossed my mind was how long he had been looking at me like that, because I hadn't seen it start. I'd just caught it already happening. I've had animals look at me before. Elk, bears at a distance, all kinds of things. But there's a difference between an animal noticing you and an animal deciding something about you. And this wasn't curiosity. This felt like pressure, like I'd just been moved from something he was ignoring to something that mattered, and that's not where you want to be. I stopped right where I was, didn't rush it, didn't make any sudden moves. I turned a little sideways, made myself smaller and less direct, and kept my eyes on him without staring him down. Everything I knew just kicked in. Give him space. Don't act like prey. Stay calm. Stay still. Let him decide this isn't worth it. That's the playbook, and most of the time it works. I've had animals size me up and move on, and that's how it's supposed to go. But something about this didn't feel right, because he didn't look unsure. He looked like he'd already made up his mind. Then he took a step toward me, just one. Slow and deliberate, not testing, not accidental. He meant it. And I felt that step more than I saw it, like something shifted the second his weight hit the ground. That's when I knew the normal ending I was counting on wasn't coming. So I started backing up, slow and steady, keeping that same angle, eyes on him the whole time. And then he stepped again and matched me. Every step I took back, he took one forward, same pace, same rhythm, not rushing, not stopping, just staying right with me. That's when it really hit me. He wasn't just moving, he was tracking me. And that's worse than a charge, because a charge is fast and obvious, but tracking is something thinking its way toward you. It hasn't committed yet, but it's getting there, and you're the thing it's getting ready for. So my brain kicked in, and I started running options. Creek draw to the east, cottonwoods down there. Could I make it? I ran it quickly and didn't like the answer. Bison can hit around 35 miles an hour, and I can't. Not even close. And that stretch between me and the draw was wide open. If I ran and he committed, there was nothing between us. No cover, no break, nothing to save me. The tree line to the north was farther with the same problem, and behind me was more of the same in every direction I ran it. The thing about going through options when the situation is real is that it's nothing like you imagine. You're burning through everything fast and desperate, and every exit closes before you finish the thought. I was standing in the worst possible place I could be. No cover, no advantage, no good options, just open ground and something big closing the distance on me, one step at a time. I kept backing up, and he just kept coming. And there's something that really gets to you about that. Doing everything right and watching it not work. I wasn't messing up, wasn't panicking, wasn't running, wasn't doing anything that would trigger him. I was following the playbook exactly the way you're supposed to, and it didn't matter. He didn't care. The distance kept shrinking anyway, steady and controlled, like the outcome had already been decided, and I was just catching up to it. At some point, I realized my breathing had changed without me deciding to change it. Cut down to the bare minimum, everything else quietly switched off. My hands went cold, and it wasn't from the air. There's something strange about that moment when your body stops consulting you and just starts making the calls itself. You're still in there, still watching, but you're not really running things anymore. By that point, it was just him. Nothing else out there existed anymore. Then he dropped his head a few inches, not all the way, not into a full charge yet, but lower, and I felt that one in my chest before my brain even put words to it, like a quiet confirmation of something I already knew, but didn't want to admit. Before we go any further, there's something you should know about first. While we were digging into this case, we found files that didn't make it to the surface. Footage, reports, evidence that got buried or pulled down before most people ever saw it. We put it all together in one place. It's in the description if you want it. I could hear him now, this low, rough exhale coming out of something big and irritated. And the sound didn't just carry through the air. It hit me and sat in my ribs. There's something about a sound like that that your body understands instantly. It doesn't go through logic, doesn't get processed step by step. It just lands somewhere deeper, something older, like a part of you that's been keeping track of danger long before you ever learned how to explain it. And what it was saying was simple. This is about to happen. People like to think that in moments like that, you get calm. Like some switch flips and everything slows down, and you become steady and controlled. That's not what it feels like. I wasn't panicking, not in the way people think of panic. I wasn't flailing or freezing up. I was locked in, present, thinking as hard and as fast as I could, but my legs didn't feel like mine anymore. My breathing had gone shallow and quick without me deciding that. And every option I ran through just came back empty. Every single one. No good moves, none. And that's a hard place to land when you're staring at something like that closing the distance. So I stopped backing up, not because I wanted to, but because it wasn't doing anything, and running was worse. That's not bravery, that's just math. I held my ground, and for a few seconds, I let myself think maybe, just maybe, this is where it turns. Maybe he reads it differently. Maybe he decides I'm not worth the trouble. Animals do that. They size things up, weigh the cost, and walk away. I've seen it happen, and I needed it to happen. So I stood as still as I could, barely breathing, giving him every possible reason to lose interest and move on. For a moment, it felt like everything was just hanging there. Then he moved again, 3 steps this time, faster, lower, and something in the way his body shifted, the angle, the way his weight started to come forward, my body understood it before my brain did. But my brain caught up quick. I'd seen enough, read enough. I knew exactly what that meant, and whatever was about to happen next was going to happen fast. He lowered his head the rest of the way, and that was it. When a bison drops into a full charge like that, there's no more guessing, no more maybe. Everything about the situation just locks in all at once, and none of it's good. I didn't think that in words right then. I just knew it, the kind of knowing that hits you deeper than thought, like your body's been here before, even if you haven't. Then he came at me, and I mean came at me. It didn't look like something that big should be able to move like that. It was like he got launched. That's the only way I can put it. 1 second he's there, the next he's closing distance faster than makes sense, and your brain just lags, just a fraction too slow to accept what it's seeing, and that fraction costs you. I heard the hooves before I fully registered the movement. Deep, heavy, pounding, like something hitting the ground with real weight behind it, getting louder way too fast. Then I was moving too, not because I decided to, because there was no plan. My body just went sideways, down. The ground came up quick, and through all of it, all that noise and speed, one thought made it through clean. Brace. Time didn't slow the way people say it does. It broke. Everything turned into pieces instead of a sequence. No smooth transitions, just moments stacked on top of each other. My hands hitting the ground, the sound filling everything. The distance collapsing so fast, there was no room left to think about anything except what was about to happen. And this is the part that still doesn't sit right with me. In that last split second, the thing my brain decided to focus on was the smell of the grass, frost on it. That's what I noticed. Not the animal, not the impact coming, just the frost. I was down on my side, arm up, braced. There was no move left, no last-second plan, no escape, no adjustment. All that stuff you think you'd do, that's only there when the danger's still theoretical. When it's real, when it's right there, and moving, none of that holds. I wasn't thinking about rolling away, wasn't trying to cover up or get clear. I was just there, out of room, waiting. And what goes through your head in a moment like that? Almost nothing. It's not your life flashing, not faces or memories or anything like that. It's just this stripped-down, empty awareness of what's about to happen. The ground under your hands, the sound getting closer, the certainty of it. No words, just knowing. The hooves were loud, right there. And then something hit him. Not me, him. Hard from my left. It wasn't a glancing blow. It caught him across the shoulder mid-charge and knocked his front end offline. The sound changed instantly, from straight-on thunder to something broken and uneven. The bull lurched sideways, hooves tearing into the ground as all that forward momentum twisted out from under him. His front legs hit wrong, tried to catch, and for a second it looked like he might go down. He didn't, but he lost it. That clean straight line was gone. He jerked his head toward whatever hit him, let out a sharp, rough burst of air, and took a couple of uneven steps back, angling away instead of forward. And that's when I saw what hit him. Bigfoot. And then I saw something I have never seen in my life. That bull started backing up. Not turning, not circling, backing up. A full-grown bull bison, reversing step by step, throwing out these short, choppy snorts that I recognized right away for what they were. Fear. Real fear. I've heard that sound before out there. You spend enough time around animals, you learn it. But I had never, not once, heard it come from something that had just been about to run me over like I wasn't even there. 30 seconds ago, that thing was a freight train coming straight at me, and now it was giving ground. It wasn't looking at me anymore. I didn't matter. Everything it had was locked onto something off to my left. So I turned. And I'll be straight with you. This is the part people always push on. This is where they start looking for holes, trying to figure out where the story breaks. So I'm just going to tell you exactly what I saw. No dressing it up, no trying to make it fit anything, because it didn't fit. My brain didn't even try to label it at first. It just stalled out, like it hit something it didn't have a category for. The first thing that registered was the size, because that's always first when something's wrong enough. Your brain goes straight to scale, because scale is survival. And the size was wrong. Not just big, wrong. And not in a simple way, like seeing a big bear stand up. This was different. It took me a second to even figure out why it felt off, because it wasn't just height, it was the proportions, the width of the shoulders, the length of the arms, the way they hung down, and the way it was standing. Upright, not reared up, not balancing, just standing there like that was normal. It was at the edge of the grass, where it thins out toward the tree line to the north, and it wasn't moving, not toward the bull, not toward me. It was just there. And somewhere in the middle of trying to make sense of it, it hit me what I was looking at. Bigfoot. There's no other way to say it. That's what it was, and I know how that sounds, but there wasn't anything else it could be. Not with that size, not with that build, not with the way it was standing there like it belonged. And the worst part? It wasn't doing anything. No charge, no display, no noise. It just stood there, like it didn't need to prove anything, like its presence alone was enough. And apparently it was, because the bull snorted again, sharper this time, and gave more ground, still backing up. If you know anything about bison, you know they don't do that. They're not wired that way. They push, they take space, they don't give it up, which means Bigfoot had just given that animal a reason strong enough to override all of that. And I was watching it happen from the ground, still trying to catch up to the fact that I was alive. Then the smell hit me all at once. Heavy, thick, not rotten, not exactly bad, just wrong, like something that didn't belong in that place. It had weight to it. It didn't just pass through, it stayed. The bull held for a few more seconds in that strange standoff I wasn't part of. No sound except those short bursts coming out of him. No movement except the space he kept giving up. Then he turned and left. Not slow, not unsure, but with purpose, putting real distance between himself and Bigfoot like it mattered. He didn't look back. For a couple of seconds after he was gone, the whole field went quiet. Not normal quiet, something heavier than that, like everything was waiting. Then it was just me and Bigfoot standing there at the edge of the grass. I was still on the ground. My legs hadn't caught up yet, hadn't gotten the message that the thing trying to kill me was gone. And getting up felt like more than just standing. It felt like a decision. Like the second I stood up, I'd have to fully accept what I was looking at, and I wasn't there yet. So I stayed down, propped up just enough to see, and I watched it. Bigfoot didn't move, not frozen still, not tense like it was ready to react, just still. The kind of stillness that doesn't look forced, the kind where you get the sense this is just how it exists when it's not doing anything else. No urgency, no edge to it. Unbothered. Like none of what just happened had cost it anything. I tried to make sense of it, tried to line it up with something I already understood, and I couldn't. I kept reaching for comparisons, and every single one fell apart the second I got close. Bear? No. The shape was wrong, the way it stood was wrong. Bears standing up have that forward lean, like they're balancing on something they weren't built for. This didn't have any of that. This was upright, not trying to be, just upright, like that was its default. The arms were too long, hanging lower than they should have. The chest was too wide. The head sat on the shoulders in a way that didn't quite make sense, like the neck was shorter than it should be, or the shoulders were higher, or both. I'd focus on one detail, try to lock it in, and it would slip away the second I tried to compare it to anything familiar. Nothing lined up. Every reference I reached for just bounced off, and after a few seconds of that, I stopped trying and just looked, because that was all I had left. And the size, I keep coming back to that, because I know how people hear something like this and scale it down in their heads, try to fit it into something they already understand. You can't. Standing there at the edge of the grass with the tree line behind it, it didn't fit into large animal. It was past that, wrong in a way that doesn't give you a clean number to hold on to. But more than the size, more than anything else, it was the stillness that stuck with me. I've spent a lot of time outdoors, and I've seen animals in all kinds of situations, and when something big realizes it's been seen, it reacts. It moves, it postures, it leaves, it does something. Bigfoot didn't. It just stood there. Like that alone was enough, like it already knew it didn't need to add anything to it. And that's the part I can't shake, because something that knows its presence is enough, that's not instinct, that's something else. Then at some point, I couldn't tell you exactly when, because time still wasn't working right. It shifted, not its body. its attention. Up until then, it had been angled toward where the bull had gone, but then slowly, its head turned. Not fast, not sharp, just deliberate, like it had decided to look at me, and that was that. And when it did, I felt it. The same way I'd felt the bison lock onto me earlier, but different. There was no surge of aggression in it, no pressure building toward impact. This was quieter, heavier, in a different way. Its eyes settled on me, and they didn't wander, didn't flick around, didn't check anything else, just stayed there. And I got this very clear sense that I wasn't just being seen. I was being figured out. That's the closest I can get to it. Assessment, like I was something it was deciding about. There was no rush in it, no tension, no sign that it felt threatened or needed to act. If anything, it felt like the opposite, like time didn't apply to it the same way it did to me. I didn't move. I don't think I could have if I tried. Every part of me was locked in place, not out of panic, but because moving didn't feel like an option that existed anymore. And there's something deeply unsettling about not knowing if you're in danger. Fear, at least, has direction. You know what it is. You know what it wants. This wasn't that. This felt like being weighed, like something was deciding if I mattered, and I had no idea what the answer was going to be or what it was even based on. It stood there, and I stayed down, and I don't know how long that lasted. 30 seconds, maybe a couple of minutes. Time wasn't doing anything normal anymore, so trying to measure it after the fact doesn't really work. Then Bigfoot moved. Not toward me, that's the first thing. It turned slightly and started moving parallel to the tree line, unhurried, like it had already made whatever decision it needed to make. Then it stepped into the trees, and this is the part that never sat right with me. It didn't make a sound. Not less sound, none. Something that size moving through that kind of cover should have made noise, branches and brush, something snapping or shifting. Nothing. It just went in, and the trees closed behind it like it had never been there, like dropping a rock into water and watching the surface smooth back out. Just like that, it was gone. The field went quiet again. Not normal quiet, heavier than that. The kind where it feels like everything is still holding its breath. I stayed there for a while, didn't rush to get up, didn't try to follow, just sat there in the grass and listened. Wind moving through it, that was it. Even the birds hadn't come back yet. When I finally stood up, I walked straight to where Bigfoot had been standing. I needed something solid, something real, something I could put my hands on and say, yeah, that happened. The grass there was pressed down, wide and deep. Not wind, not me. Something had been there. I stood in that spot and looked back at where I'd been lying, trying to line it up in my head, trying to make the whole thing connect in a way that made sense. It didn't. But the grass didn't lie. That was the only proof I was going to get. Not a picture, not a track anyone else would accept, just bent grass in a field where something that shouldn't exist had stood and made a decision, one that kept me alive. I stood there with that for a while, then I walked out. And that walk back was the longest one I've ever taken, not because of distance, but because of what I was carrying. I've always been a practical person, skeptical by default, the kind of guy who hears stories like this and shakes his head. And that version of me was still there the whole way back, trying to make it fit into something normal, trying to explain it. Every step, same result, nothing, no clean answer. I told someone when I got back. The reaction was exactly what you'd expect, and honestly, that part didn't bother me. I already knew how that was going to go. What I haven't figured out, and probably never will, is the why. Why that place? Why that moment? Was it just timing? Just being in the wrong spot with the wrong animal, and Bigfoot happened to be there? Or was there something else going on, something more deliberate? I don't have a way to answer that, and I've sat with it long enough to know I probably never will. All I know is this: a bison was about to kill me, but because of Bigfoot, it never reached me.